You already know how this story is supposed to end. We won. They lost. Simple. The Neanderthals, the other kind of human, vanished 40,000 years ago, and here you are, alive, watching this right now. So picture it the way almost everyone does. Clever, sleek humans wiping out slow, brutish cavemen. A war, a conquest, an extermination. Here is the strange part nobody expects. Almost none of that picture is actually true. There is no real evidence of a great war between them. No massacre, no single day the last one fell. And the Neanderthals were not the weaklings of the story. They were stronger than us, and their brains were bigger, and still, somehow, they lost. So why? The answer isn't a sharper weapon or a bigger muscle. It is a single quiet thing, an alliance. And the truth about where the Neanderthals really went is going to end up much, much closer to home than you think. It all comes to a head about 40,000 years ago. By then, they had owned this world for a very long time. Ice Age Europe, cold, open, dangerous, and theirs. So forget the grunting, knuckle-dragging caveman for a moment. Neanderthals made fire whenever they wanted it. They built stone tools, shelters, and warm, sewn clothing. They hunted mammoths up close with heavy thrusting spears. They made pigments. They buried their own dead. They cared for their injured, their sick, and their elderly. This was not some failed first draft of a human being. This was a human, just a different kind of human. So when our own ancestors first walked up into Europe, they were not meeting simple, stumbling beasts. They were meeting the locals, the experts, who had already survived ice ages our species never saw. By almost every measure that should have mattered here, the Neanderthals were the ones who should have won. So what on earth did we have that they did not? Not bigger muscles. And, remember, not a bigger brain. In fact, if you look carefully inside those two skulls, one strange little difference quietly jumps out at you. The Neanderthals had noticeably larger eyes than we do. In the dim gray north, big eyes help them see. But big eyes are expensive. They cost brain power to run. And one study of these skulls, by Pearce, Stringer, and Dunbar in 2013, argues something startling. So much Neanderthal brain went to seeing and to moving that a little less was left over for one crucial thing: each other. Our brains, this idea says, were wired a little differently, wired to hold a bigger crowd of people in mind at once. And that, right there, is the whole story in one word. Neanderthals seem to have lived in small, tight little bands. A family, a valley, and not a great deal beyond it. Our ancestors did something those bands never quite did. We built a web. We connected ourselves together. Band linked to band. Camp linked to distant camp. At our old campsites, archaeologists keep finding seashells sitting hundreds of miles from the nearest sea. Special stone for tools, carried in from far-off hills. Those objects, obviously, did not walk there on their own. They were passed along, hand to hand, group to group, down a long chain of people who all knew each other. That living chain of people was the alliance. Not one proud tribe standing alone against another, but dozens of scattered groups, loosely woven into one. And a web like that has one quiet, enormous superpower. When one valley's hunt failed and the food ran out, an isolated Neanderthal band might simply starve. Our ancestors could send word down the line instead, and drift toward the neighbors who still had plenty. A good idea, a better spear tip, a clever new trick. It did not die quietly with one clever person. It traveled outward across the entire network. The Neanderthals were brilliant, one band at a time. We were something new. We were brilliant together. And here is the part that almost nobody talks about. This alliance may not have stopped with other people. One bold, heavily argued idea pushes it further. As our ancestors spread into Europe, they struck a partnership no human had ever made before, a partnership with the wolf. Certain very old bones, some argue, are early dogs, wolves slowly turning into hunting partners. A wolf smells and runs the prey down, a human aims and kills. Together, the story goes, they were almost unbeatable, while the Neanderthals still hunted alone. Now, be careful. Plenty of scientists think this wolf idea reaches too far. Those ancient skulls are fiercely disputed. Some researchers say they are simply wolves, not dogs at all. So hold it loosely, a fascinating maybe, not a hard fact. But even as a maybe, it points at the real answer beneath. We kept reaching out, and connection, it turns out, was really a numbers game. So here's the real question. With all that connection on our side, why did the other side simply vanish? There were simply never very many of them at all. Small bands, spread thin across a whole frozen continent. We have now actually read a Neanderthal's entire genome. One woman from a cold cave high in Siberia. And her DNA held a quiet, genuinely sobering fact. Her parents were about as closely related as half-siblings. That is not a scandal. It is a warning sign. It is exactly what happens when there is almost no one else. And a tiny, inbred population is a fragile, brittle thing. One hard winter, one bad year, one new sickness, each blow lands, and fewer of them ever get back up. This is the quiet conclusion scientists keep arriving at. Vason and his colleagues actually ran the maths on this in 2019, and it found something that is almost unbearable to sit with. A population that small and that inbred might well have flickered out around 40,000 years ago on its own, even if our ancestors had never shown up at all. Just let that sink in for a second. Maybe we were never the murderers of this story at all. Maybe we were just the ones who happened to be there, growing, spreading, connected, everywhere at once, while their small, quiet world around 40,000 years ago was running out of people. But that still leaves us the single hardest question. If nobody actually killed them off, then where, exactly, did all of them go? For a long time, we imagined a clean, simple ending. 2 separate roads. Ours goes on, theirs just stops. But those 2 roads never really stayed apart. For thousands of years, the 2 kinds of human shared the very same cold continent, side by side. They met, and they met again, over and over. And when 2 kinds of human keep meeting like that, they don't only fight. Sometimes they fall in love. They had children together, real, living children. And those children lived and had children of their own. And that bloodline has run unbroken for 40,000 years, right down to now. And here is the twist this whole story was hiding. The Neanderthals were never simply wiped out. They were taken in. They were absorbed. The larger network simply folded them into itself. The alliance did not win by killing them off. In the end, it won by marrying them. And this is where it stops being distant, ancient history. Because they left a piece of themselves behind. In us. If your family comes from anywhere outside Africa, then roughly 2% of your DNA is Neanderthal. When Richard Green's team first read that code in 2010, it was no metaphor. It sits in your cells, copied straight down from those Ice Age hunters. And it still shapes small, ordinary things about you. Your skin, your hair, even how your body fights off a cold. The very people we were so sure we had destroyed have been quietly riding along inside us for 40,000 years. So go back, one last time, to the story you started with. The clever winners, the doomed, brutish losers. It was never, ever really that simple. The Neanderthals did not lose to a stronger animal. They lost, very slowly, to a more connected one. For 40,000 years, that has been our real edge. Not the strongest, and not the smartest one alone, but the ones who kept reaching out for each other. And the others, in the end, never truly vanished. The alliance did not erase them. It took them in. So, the last Neanderthal never really died alone. A little of that stubborn, ice-hardened, watchful human is sitting somewhere quiet, right now, watching this, carried for 40,000 years safely inside you.